Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's special meeting of the Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this is a special meeting where we are limiting the topics to two. We've got a resolution that is proposing to extend voting in the May election by 1 hour to respect those of our community who celebrate Shavuos. And so we have that on the table, and then the Stillwell project, which we had raised at the March meeting, and tonight we are happy to bring a resolution for a proposition that would allow the county to convey property to the school district, and also would allow us to renovate in order to enhance the park for the use of our district, and that includes all of our clubs and our school community, as well as Nassau County. So with that, Dr. Rogers is going to provide us with a little background, a history of how we got to this point with Stillwell. We'll have an audience to the public that is strictly limited to the Stillwell project, or the extension of the voting by an hour in May. And then we'll have some discussion, and then we will entertain the resolutions that are on the table.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I'll go through a little bit of the history and a little bit of the reason why a special meeting is necessary at this time. So we announced the agreement that we reached with Nassau County as soon as we could, but obviously late in our budget cycle. It would have been great if we could have gotten that agreement sooner, but we went as fast as we could. So what that has done is, if the propositions are going to be on the ballot for May of this year, then we're almost out of time legally for the window in which the board can adopt propositions to put on the ballot. So the board announced our agreement with the county at the last meeting, but in order to make the statutory timelines and avoid having to do a separate standalone vote and incur the expense of that separate standalone vote, it's necessary to do this special meeting in order to remain timely. So with that said, what is the project? What is the proposal? So essentially there are two parts to the process. Part number one is to convey the property to the school district, and this is essentially a sale of land. The land in question is the 35 acres of cleared land that is on the western side of the Stillwell Preserve. There are another 670 or so acres that are wooded property to the east side. That land remains county parkland and remains as part of the greenbelt and the preserve that's already there. That's not part of this arrangement. Only the 35 acres that is to the west and is already cleared and is currently being used as field space in a park. The conveyance would be for the sum of $1, so there's not a financial impact to the actual conveyance of the property itself. The financial impact comes to both the county and the school district for the subsequent improvement of the property. So users of the property will know that it has some limitations in terms of its physical infrastructure, and that it is in need of some renovation. Including the buildings on the property are also in need of some renovation. The county, Legislator Lapizan 2 years ago secured $3 million in bonding authority from the county to do an improvement project on the property. As he mentioned at the March board meeting, When the pandemic hit, everything was placed on hold temporarily, and this now takes that hold off. And what would happen is, in addition to conveying the property to the school district, the county would convey the $3 million that they had already committed to do improvements on the project, on the property. The school district would match those funds with funds of its own, $2 million in reserves that have been pledged, $1 million each by two different developers that have developed projects in the community, and then an additional $5.5 million to be raised through a bond. And the district is about to retire a bond right now, and so the debt service on the new bond is less than the debt service on the bond that is being retired. So the net impact to the tax levy is not to increase it, but it would go down somewhat. So the process, a little bit more about the conveyance. So in the agreement that we reached with the county has put some conditions on the property. The conditions are that all of the existing use agreements and permits that are in place right now for the groups that have longstanding use permits for the property convey and are transferred with the property intact. So the school district would honor all of those agreements and permits that are already in place. Nassau County residents would be able to use the park, as is currently the case now, and it would remain in use for recreational facilities. In other words, we couldn't construct some sort of commercial building on the property that would violate the terms of the contract. So the process for how this will work legally is there's essentially three steps. There's a step at the school district, there's a step at the county, and there's a step at the state. So it's a complicated process. But if we think of it in those three buckets, I think we can sort it out. The school district's bucket is pretty straightforward. That's the work the school board is here to do tonight. If the board approves the proposition to place on the May ballot, there will be two things for the public to vote on the May ballot. One is the sale of the property for the sum of $1 from the county to the school district. And the second is to raise the funds to do the improvement project on the property. And both of those propositions have to pass in order for either of them to pass. So it's not possible to vote yes on buying it for $1 and no on improving it. If either fails, they both fail. The county has to have this contract approved through the county legislature. My understanding is that the next meeting of the county legislature at which this could be considered is April 29th. And then lastly, there is a bill that passes through the legislature in Albany, and that would be the final step in the process, and then the property would be conveyed. And we'd be in a position to begin the work of starting the rehabilitation project on the site. So because this is moving quickly, and because the board has asked the administration to seek as much public input as possible, we have met already with some of the most heavy users of the property to get their input and feedback. We had thrown out at the last board meeting what I hoped was a provocative set of ideas for ways that the property could be improved. We certainly got a lot of feedback on those ideas, and as a result of that feedback, the board was certainly open to amendments, thinking differently about how to use the property. Obviously, what everyone wants is, if this is going to go through, is for the community at large to think of this as an improvement in the local region. There was a sense that while an indoor facility would have some uses, the strong preference was to maintain as much outdoor capacity as possible and not have the two compete. So although we floated the idea of using something like an air-supported structure or bubble to enhance the indoor space that the school district could really use for athletics programs, that was something that it looked like would compete with the uses that are already going on in the property. And so if one gain comes at the expense of another loss, maybe that's not the best way to design the property. So For now, we've shelved our ideas for using the property as a place to put an internal structure, an indoor structure, and would instead propose that we continue to develop the outdoor spaces and make them more usable for the school district and for the community groups that use the property. Our plan is, over the course of the next 6 weeks leading up to the budget vote, to schedule a series of public meetings, to take more public feedback on the project, to get more public input and ideas, and use that input to try and finalize what the approach would be for how to best maximize the use of the property for both the school district and for the community at large. So we'll, assuming the board moves ahead this evening, we will have a social media campaign, place on our website where people can go to get information, mailer to the public, and a series of public meetings where the public can offer their thoughts, suggestions, and be heard and have questions answered. So with all of that as backdrop, I would say that what we're anticipating in terms of the project itself is to try and construct 2 synthetic turf fields, put lights on those 2 fields, have additional lights that can are sufficient to light at least 1 grass field, ring the perimeter with an asphalt running track that ends up being almost exactly a mile. It is exactly a mile long, and so I think it would be a great asset for runners, but also for members of the community who like to walk for exercise, to be able to go to a safe and beautiful place to get their walks in during the day without having to worry about traffic. Obviously, there's a need to improve parking, both in terms of just the quality of the asphalt, but also the configuration of the parking, because I know that there are some tight spots where parking is a problem and then traffic is a problem, and that leads to safety being a problem. There are existing bathrooms on the site. They could use some rehabilitation. There is the hope of doing some improvements to the infields of the baseball fields by using artificial turf to make them playable more often. My understanding is that right now they have some difficulties because of the inadequacy of the drainage of those fields. And then lastly, to see if there are other ways that we can maximize the use of the property that's there so that it ends up being a great asset for the school district and a great asset for people that use it. So with all of that as backdrop, we've prepared the resolutions for the board to consider this evening, and I'll try to give it back to Ms. Frankel.
Thank you. At this time, we would like to invite anybody who'd like to come up to the podium who's a Syosset resident to ask any questions or make any comments for audience to the public. You may have seen the rules that are in the agenda, but basically if you could write your address, identify your name for us, you'll have 4 minutes to communicate with us. If there are questions as opposed to comments after the first round of people have concluded their audience comments, we will make every attempt to answer as best as we can. And then if you have anything further to say, you can come back up for an additional 4 minutes. And at the end of that second round, we'll do our best to answer any questions that may have been asked. Please just don't identify children or staff of any kind in connection with your comments. And again, audience to the public today is limited to Stillwell or the extension of the vote by an hour in May.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Alizzi, and I live at 33 Calvin Avenue, Syosset, New York. And I'm coming here tonight because I'm deeply concerned on behalf of the tax-paying base of the Syosset Central School District. that we are being asked to now finance and maintain. I heard a lot about the financing tonight, not too much about the maintenance of this, of a project that really, it's nice that it benefits the entire county, but where it's on the backs of one school district's tax roll to pay for the upkeep of it. And I think it's unfair that the taxpayers are asked to finance a project which goes way beyond the boundaries of this school district. The project in the first place does not have a lot to do with education. It's Parks and Recreation. We have a Parks and Recreation department within the town and the county. Why are we taking on that responsibility? To me, I think it's an unnecessary burden on the school district and an unnecessary burden on the taxpayers of the school district, who will be bearing the responsibility for the upkeep and maintenance of this property for the foreseeable future. It's not clear to me. There was never a statement made about how it would be financed at all, whether these groups, these long-standing users, would be paying anything. I don't think they will be, and now they have the use of a bubble, 2 bubbles, I think I heard, or structures. I'm not sure how that's going to be paid for on the upkeep of that, but except it'll come from the backs of the taxpayers. I think we've been asked to support a lot in the past, and we have. The taxpayers have supported this school district finely over the years. I think this is going above and beyond the request for support. And I'd like to close by saying that you reached out to the constituents, I like it, the heavy users of the property. I don't exactly see you reaching out to the other constituents and those who have to pay the bill. I did not know about this meeting except to hear about it through an email from Josh Lafazan. And in fact, to find out that there was a meeting tonight, you had to dig very deep into the Syosset School District website to even find it. It's not on the calendar. You can look. It's not on the calendar for today. You'll have to go through many, many steps to find that it's buried somewhere in the back under the Board of Ed separate calendar. But other Board of Ed things are on the regular calendar. So I'm going to leave it at that for tonight. I know there are many other opportunities to present more information, and I hope that you will prior to the actual vote. And I thank you for your time, and I do want to thank you all for what you do on a daily basis for the school district. It's greatly appreciated.
Is there anyone else who would like to come up to speak at audience to the public?
My name is David Locker. I reside at 11 Aaron Drive, Woodbury, New York, 11797. I'm here as a parent of a child in the district and as the president of the Syosset Soccer Club, who I guess is one of the heavy users Dr. Rogers mentioned. I first want to thank the board for their time and effort in this project. I know I was on a call with a few board members and Dr. Rogers this week, which was all put together very quickly. And on behalf of the 1,600 plus children, Syosset residents who utilize these fields every day of the week, 7 days a week, and year round, I want to thank you guys for the undertaking of this project and for the support the board has given the club. We will look forward to a partnership with this property, and I do again thank you on behalf of every child who plays in those fields, who are all Syosset residents, for the support you guys have given us. I would love to see if there are any renderings or plans that will be viewable before the vote. I think that's my question I would have, because I know you, since our meeting, I think you guys have listened to feedback, and I think the plans have changed a little bit from the initial conversations, which I appreciate, but I would love to see some type of visualization of that if we can, just to get a better idea of what we're talking about. But again, the hard work, I do thank you. The fields are utilized, again, 7 days a week by so many children in this district, and to see the smiling faces of kids playing on those fields is great. And as a taxpayer, I welcome sharing whatever burden I have to share to pay my fair share for that. It's great. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up for audience to the public? Is there anyone who wanted to come up for a second time before we conclude audience to the public and make an effort to answer the comments or questions that were made?
I have questions, but I don't necessarily have a statement. Is that okay?
Please just introduce yourself.
Yeah,
and-
sure.
and-
Brian Moriarty, 38 Parkway Drive, Syosset, New York, 11791. I actually coach Syosset soccer. I've had about 20 teams now over the last 11 years, both boys and girls. And I do appreciate the effort to upgrade the facilities and upgrade the fields. I guess my one question is sort of what's the ongoing budget to pay for this going forward, and how that might impact the education budget. And if it's, is it $100,000 a year? Is it $200,000 a year? Is that going to be made up for by the fees charged? Because I know they do a lot of races over there. Are there going to be concessions? Are we going to bid those out? That type of thing to offset that? Because I do have some concern, like the first gentleman, about the taxes going up, especially since the SALT tax limit in New York, every dollar that it goes up is a dollar more out of our pocket. And so I do have some concerns there, but I was more against the project before I heard what Dr. Rogers said, so now I'm sort of like on the fence. I'm actually kind of excited about it. I'm glad that, because I think you said there's not going to be any structures, right? It's going to be all outdoor. So that was my biggest concern. The upkeep of a indoor structure like that would be perhaps, down the line a huge problem financially. So before I go, I want to say thank you, but I also want to give a shout out to HBT teachers and staff who have been awesome this year. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up for audience to the public before I close it out? Okay, thank you so much for your comments and your thoughts.
Yes, so just to clarify the scope of the project, and I apologize if I wasn't clear earlier, we had initially thrown the idea of a bubble out there, some sort of an indoor structure, but have decided that that's not the best use of the space or of the resource. So we wouldn't be building a bubble, and as a result, to answer the later question about what the annual upkeep would be, with the bubble, we were estimating an upkeep in the order of about $300,000 a year. Without the bubble, I think it would be at least 30% less than that. So the main parts of, obviously, the upkeep are going to be keeping the fields in good shape, and that's where we'll, that will be the largest part of the investment, but obviously there's investment on upkeep and maintenance as well. In terms of what that will do for the district's budget, there's obviously push and pull in the budget. We do rent facilities now in Syosset as overflow space for some of our own teams. This would make that unnecessary. It would upgrade the quality of the facility that our students use, so there is a cost and then a benefit to that expenditure, sort of both married together. We don't have any renderings. Obviously, this project has been moving quickly because of the time frame in terms of working with the county. We'd like to get some more feedback from community groups, and not just the heavy users of the property, but we want to hold some public meetings. I think for those meetings to be fruitful, it would be helpful to have some visualizations, but what I don't want to do is have a visualization that says we're not still listening. So we'll work with the school district's architects to try and put together some ideas and then take some feedback on those ideas. in the end, it's going to be about the board has before it a proposition for an expenditure of a certain amount of money. So the question will be, within that budget, what are the different pieces and how can you lay them out? But I do think for the public to consider this, it would be helpful to become more concrete about what exactly would be in there beyond just listing out the projects that would be there. And so ongoing budget. Ongoing maintenance, 200,000-ish. And then the rest are comments and opinions. So, obviously for the board to respond to.
Yeah, if I could add, when we think about our students' experience in Syosset, we really do think about their entire experience, because at the end of the day, all of the clubs that currently and still plan to use these facilities are our kids. So the better the facilities are that our students are using to develop their skills, the better our school programs are. These clubs have been really successful at being, my glasses are fogging up, so I'm going to take them off and not see you. Apologize for that. But they are feeder programs for our district. So the kids will play on these fields after school with our programs, and then continue with their club teams after school to further develop and hone their skills. So, our students, you can see, I think, with the facilities work that we've done over the last 3 or 4 years, we've kind of lagged behind, we really have lagged behind many other school districts in the county in terms of our, even our science classes and our outdoor facilities and our parking lots and even the walls of our, and the ceilings and the floors of our buildings. And we've been slowly but surely making this district what it should be, because we all know how successful our athletics are, but that's not really what we're only about. We are servicing all of our kids here with their music and their academics and their athletics. And in order to do that the right way and keep improving, because we're always looking to do that, we have to have facilities that match. And we're looking at Hicksville and Massapequa and districts all over Nassau County with fields and facilities that are boons for their community. It's getting their kids out more and later. The better the facility is with the lights. They're exercising more, they're healthier. With the rest of the community, it's the same thing. We build facilities that people want to go to. And in doing that, we really do enhance the sense of community that we have. I remember talking to one coach who really, I was already excited about the project, but he energized me even more, because he talked about how when we have a facility across the street like Stillwell, and our kids are all using it, and they don't have to travel by bus, which is what our students are doing right now, by the way, because we only have one large field right now, one large turf field. We literally have to bus students to other facilities in order to get those practices in at the same quality of field that the team that's using our fields currently is using. And so we're, paying for busing to take them to those fields. It's a hassle, but this particular coach at that moment had said, you know, just imagine what it would be like. We have our young kids looking up to the varsity kids. We're playing, about practice at Stillwell, and then right after, we're walking the kids to the varsity team, and we're getting autographs from the varsity kids, and it just is a sense of community to have everybody together at a facility. We also talk about other things that we can do with this property, and educational ways that we can enhance the property so that we can bring kids to look at the natural, habitat, and so there are certainly things that we can do with this property that don't solely involve athletics, but invite our non-athletic community to, of course, enjoy the beauty of Stillwell. So that's just my 2 cents. To me, it is a community builder, but it is definitely a enhancement for the student experience that we have here and that we currently offer. We appreciate your feedback, and Dr. Rogers is going to be promoting dates for groups to attend to give us further feedback. But we've been very open with the groups that we've already met with. That literally just happened over the course of 1 week, so by no means are we calling it a day after those meetings. We're very happy to share this information and get feedback from everyone in our community, and we'll put out the dates, we'll publicize them very well so that you'll know when they're coming up. Okay, so are there any board questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I will begin with Chris DiFilippo.
Okay, Chris, you're ready to go.
Hello, are you hearing me? I don't know how I'm going to participate in the board meeting if I'm seeing your room.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Chris.
Okay. Did you hear me before?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right, let me know when I can talk. I
Right now,
didn't get to
you're
go
ready.
ahead.
Your microphone is
okay.
on.
I think it's an interesting project. Unfortunately for tonight, it's like deja vu. It reminds me of when we had the meeting when we wanted to consider selling the Woodbury property, and I don't see a lot of people coming tonight. I don't see that as really representative of this community. So I'm very concerned about that. I know, Dr. Rogers, you're looking for a time frame to have it on the ballot, but it doesn't give us enough time. The people in the community haven't approached it. We just had this meeting, and I don't see anybody tonight. There was some comments made that we only have one turf field. We spent several years trying to get that turf field, and we spent several $1 million, and it hasn't been used the way we intended because, of this pandemic. We've also spent over $5 million on a fitness center. So what I'm seeing with the project is I don't see an educational aspect publicized with any type of outdoor and environmental education. I see it as possibly catering to a few key users of the property, because it looks like, Nassau County wants to unload it and doesn't want to do the maintenance that they have to. I think $200,000 or $300,000 a year is very much on the low end to support that type of facility. I'd be more inclined to agree with this project if I saw input and feedback from more of the people from the community participating tonight. I'm sorry, but I don't see that. I would certainly consider the project in a future date. Thank you.
Anyone else from the board have any questions or comments? Okay.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. DiFilippo. I haven't talked about this in the context of the project, but certainly the idea of using it as some sort of an environmental education opportunity for students is something that makes a lot of sense. I've seen other school districts that take large properties like this and create things like scale models of the solar system or rain gardens, bioswales, different kinds of outdoor naturalist kinds of areas. And because the property is adjacent to a large nature preserve, there's a program through Nassau BOCES that has naturalists that take students through large wooded areas in order to be able to give them a sense of what's going on. Your suggestion makes me think of that program and makes me think that rather than having to bus a student to the Nassau BOCES outdoor education site, it might be possible to take advantage of that expertise but do it closer to home and not have to have students travel as far. So I think those are creative ideas and certainly things that we could look at incorporating as we would look at other public feedback for suggestions of items that we should incorporate into the center. And I did mean to, and neglected to mention earlier, that the educational use, at least for us, apart from that, is that right now with just one field, what we do is we rotate among the various teams that we have, and so that means that we bounce back and forth between the boys teams and the girls teams. We're always trying to promote gender equity. And then having more assets just provides us with a way of making sure that that is more evened out. So from the perspective of the school district and the programming side, the complicated part of programming all of these teams, there may be 6, 7 teams in a season that are all field sport teams that all are demanding to use the same types of fields. And so this just frees up more space for them to be able to have comparable experiences. And I neglected to both of the members of the audience, of the public who had kind things to say about the school district. I wanted to remember to say thank you. I neglected to do that, so thank you.
Okay, there are no A items tonight. As for B items, B1 is the approval of the SECRA board resolution. May I have a motion, please? Rob Gershon, seconded by Andy Feldman. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B2 is the authorization of a proposition intermunicipal agreement for the conveyance of Stillwell Woods Preserve by the County of Nassau to the Syosset Central School District. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Falcove. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B3 is the intermunicipal cooperation agreement for the conveyance of Stillwell Woods Preserve by the County of Nassau to the Syosset Central School District. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Gershon, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? B4 is the approval of the bond resolution authorizing the Syosset Central School District to construct a sports and recreational facility at the Stillwell Fields property in Syosset, New York. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Chang. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? This is a necessary roll call vote, so I will say everyone's names, and if you could raise your hand or not, please do. Ms. Frankel is a yes. Mr. Gershon? Yes. Ms. Chang? Ms. Chang?
Yes.
Mr. DiFilippo?
No.
Ms. Falco? Mr. Feldman?
Yes.
Ms. Levitan? Mr. Rotolo? B5 is the revised approval of the resolution scheduling public hearing, budget, vote, and election. The polling locations would be open until 10 p.m. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Falco, seconded by Mr. Rotolo. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Ms. Falco and Mr. Rotolo, thank you so much, everybody, for attending.